Hey, what's going on everybody? Alex here with Freedom Mowers. I hope you all are doing well. Today we've got a Husqvarna up on the table. This is a 435 X-Torque E-Series. Now I think a lot of these, like 400 series, they're all pretty similar. These were sold by Lowe's and a very common saw, but we're going to be trying to troubleshoot this today, which can apply to a lot of different saws. I had a family friend pick this up recently for $10 at a yard sale. The previous owner said that they used it a couple of years ago. They had since gone electric. They couldn't get this to start. That's kind of where it was at. Now I have pulled this over. It feels like it has good compression. I was able to get it to kind of just fire up for a second, but that's basically all it'll do. So let's get started. I'll show you guys what it's doing and we'll go through the troubleshooting and get this all fixed up. Now, like I said, the first thing I did was just check for compression. You'll just want to pull the string, see if you have some resistance. This feels like it has pretty good compression. You don't want to feel it binding, but you want to feel a good amount of pullback. If it's just free pulling, you may have a problem with the recoil, or could be worse, could have engine damage. So I'm just going to go through the starting process on this saw. It does have whatever fuel was in here. We're going to check that, take a sample of it. It says to push this 6 times. We're going to go up to the choke position and then we'll pull it. So it kicked over. Now we can drop the choke down. And that's more than it did before. So more than likely the diaphragm inside the carburetor has gotten a bit crispy. Old fuel, so we'll see what we can do here. Same result. So let's go ahead, we'll see what this fuel looks like, go from there. So we know that we obviously have spark and compression enough to make this run. You guys heard that. But we'll go through, I'll show you guys how to check that as well, just because sometimes you're going to run into that instance where you're not getting anything, no kick, anything like that. I'm going to get that all cleaned out and blown out. It is brown and there is definitely some debris in there. Not the kind of fuel you want to have in your two-stroke equipment. And inside the tank actually looks pretty clean. Our fuel filter is connected to the line in there. We will be changing that out later. But overall, that looks good. So let me get this blown out with compressed air and then we'll go ahead and take the upper cover off. Then our cover comes right off. Our air filter is packed with debris. There's all kinds of wood chips in here. So that's going to need to be cleaned out. These two come off and then we can pull that muffler. When we have that off, we'll go ahead and check the spark arrestor on here as well, because that is very common to get clogged up. So our spark arrestor, the screen on this one is right underneath of here. It's just a JIS or a Phillips. So you just got to get that slid out from underneath. And our screen, you can see through it, there definitely is a little bit of some carbon buildup on here, but I'll go ahead and just put a torch to it and clean all that up as well and get all this debris blown out. But overall, the muffler's still in good shape. Alright, so I'm just going to go ahead and torch the screen on here. You guys can see it's going to burn off all of that carbon on there. Alright, we want to check out the condition of the exhaust side of the piston. So I'm going to go ahead, take off the spark plug wire. I'm going to take this plug out. That's going to help us rotate the engine over a little bit more free. We'll take a quick look at this plug. A bit on the dark side, so it was definitely running a bit rich and carboned up. We will change out this plug. I'll get you guys close up here in a minute. I can get the skirt of the piston up close to the top here and show you guys, which actually looks to be in really good shape. Alright, I've got you guys zoomed in, and now we can see. I'll go ahead and rotate it a little bit, but overall the condition looks like almost brand new. What you're looking for, if there is damage, you're going to have scratching or galling on the side of that skirt, and a lot of times these ports, they get completely packed up with carbon. This one looks to be in pretty good shape. So alright, got the exhaust button back up, and I did just blow out the air filter on here. Now, in order to check spark on here, obviously we know we have spark on this saw, but if you're wondering if you do have spark, you can use a spark checker, or you can take your plug, put it back into the wire. Make sure that your saw is in the run position. This one just has, you push down to turn it off, and then it just goes back to the on position. And then you'll basically just look to see if you have spark between the electrodes on the spark plug. I'll zoom in on that for you. And we've got good spark on this machine. Now, a couple of things that you can do if you are experiencing no spark on your plug. Obviously, you can change the plug out. If that doesn't do anything, what you can also do is disconnect this wire that's on your coil. That is actually your grounding wire. Leave that disconnected. Try it a few times, and if you're still not getting spark, then more than likely you have a bad coil. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to go ahead and do is just get that fuel filter changed out in here. What I want to do is change out the fuel filter, put some fresh fuel in, we'll put the plug back in, we'll just see what happens from there. If we're still having problems, I do have a brand new HIPA carburetor to put on here, and if that's the case, we'll just go ahead, get the carb swapped out, new primer bulb, and go from there. Go ahead and pull out this filter. Pop on our new one. Like I said, I've already blown out the tank, so that's nice and clean. That fuel that was in here had to have been a couple years old. I'm going to go ahead and get this all buttoned back up, take you guys down, and we'll see what happens. Same as before. Let me get the air filter back on here. Same as before, we're just going to prime it up and see what it does. It's taking a minute to get the fuel to flow through that new filter. So we'll go up to choke, off choke, same result. I think all it's doing is just running off the fuel that the primer is pulling. So, kicked over. Same result. So what I'll do, I'm just going to run a quick compression test on here. I'll show you guys the numbers on that, and then we're going to go ahead and get this carburetor swapped out. Alright, I'm just going to show you guys real quick, checking the compression on here. This gauge is not the best, but I have it zeroed out. We've got it hooked up, and you want to hold the throttle wide open. Give it probably anywhere from 6 to 10 pulls. And I've got about 105 on here, so that should be plenty for this to run. Alright, we're going to go ahead and get the carb swapped out. If it looks like there's a new one on here, there is, because I have already changed this out and my hand was in the way the whole time. So I'm going to show you guys the way to do it. There is 3 bolts on here, one here, one on the bottom, and then one on the bottom left. Alright, I've got these 3 bolts loosened up. It's easiest to have a magnet to get them out of the way, because my fingers are not that small. So we'll get those out of the way. I'm going to go ahead and tip this on the side, relieve pressure in the tank if there is any. That way when we pull the fuel lines off, it's not spraying everywhere on us. So at this point we need to we have our throttle. There is a little tab right here. Try not to get too crazy, but it's a little pop tab, and then basically from here I'll put a little downward pressure on the handle because it is spring loaded, and then this comes right up and that can be pulled off to the side. There's a little hook right here for this fuel line. That way we can kind of just set this off. Actually, I think at this point I can manipulate the throttle right out of the way. We'll set that off to the side. Now from here we need to, there's a little rubber grommet. This needs to come out from, there's a little tab, and then we come up and above that. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect this upper line. Now this upper line right here going to the primer bulb goes to the back right. The lower line goes underneath down here in this top left corner, and then there is one more line that we'll get to in a minute that's down at the bottom right. So basically we've got all this loosened up. I need to slip the choke over top of the arm here, or basically get it out of the groove, and then from here we're gonna kind of move this whole unit over to the side to get it out from where the primer bulb sits, and then basically we can just let this hang loose. From here we have a little bit better access to our last fuel line that needs to come off. That is on the front right corner, and then there is just a little tab right here that releases the carburetor. And then from here with your new carb, or in my case we already have the new carb, just take this fuel line from your old one, put it on the new one, basically just snap this into place, and everything is reverse order. Alright, I've got the bolts all back in. Everything is nice and snug. One more time, we'll just check to make sure that everything is working like it should. Now we can go ahead and just test our primer bulb as well. This is a good time. You want to make sure that everything is on there and we don't have any fuel leaks before we button everything back up. And that is pumping good. I don't see any leaks, so at this point we can go ahead and just put our air filter back on. I'll get the new plug in, get the top back on, and we'll see if this will crank up. Alright, we're going to try this with no adjustments, see where we're at. I do have a couple of tools over here in case I need to, either the idle or the high-low mixture, but we're going to see out of the box what this does. We've already primed it, so alright. I'd say that's pretty good right out of the box. That is running actually really well. I did, you want to let it warm up a little bit just to make sure everything's flowing. You don't want to just start trying to pin the throttle on a cold two-stroke machine. So I'll let this run for a few minutes, warm up, see how it responds. But yeah, you guys might ask, why didn't you try to clean out the carb on here? A lot of times you can just get the carbs for $15 to $20 or a full kit, and it's a lot easier than having to break down the carb, and it's plug and play most of the time. Alright, well, I think that's going to do it for this saw today. It seems to be running great. I will make some test cuts with it and tune it if it needs to, actually cutting into the wood, but overall it seems to be running great right out of the box. Like I said, there is the HIPA carburetor. Now they make kits for full maintenance, you know, with the filters in here, air filter, fuel filter, spark plug, carb. They've got tons of stuff for your 2-stroke equipment or your 4-stroke equipment. So I will leave a link for this carburetor in the description, and where you can find them at their actual website. I appreciate you guys watching. Hopefully this helps somebody out and helps you guys troubleshoot your saw. And on that note, let freedom ring, let the small engine sing. I'll see you all in the next one.